Okay, so we are talking power of images. And yes, that's visualization. And it kind of follows on from power of words that I did in the beginning of the month. But the two can be used separately. But if you do the one and you do the other on top of it, it's even more powerful. But for the new people who don't know me, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. So that's me, my Natasja King Coaching mug. And again, I don't have the mug on the table. It would have been so good if I thought of that. So yeah, I started Natasja King Coaching as a company last year. And I thought, yeah, if I have the mug with a logo, that means I'm in business. No clients, no website, I've got the mug, I'm in business. And I do the coaching thing on Wednesdays. That's why it's between brackets. But one day those brackets will fall off and I'll just be Natasja King Coaching. And so I've been a PA since 1997, worked in law firms in the UK and in South Africa. I'm originally from South Africa, and that's where the accent comes from. And during lockdown, my husband and I, working from home, we speak Afrikaans to each other all the time. So it's a lot stronger at the moment, but that'll kind of go away as we go back into offices. I worked in First National Bank in South Africa in Cape Town, if people know this bank, and then 2004 moved to the UK, and I started working as a PA in a legal firm, a private practice firm. Was there for about 11 years, just over 11 years, and then I decided to move into in-house legal. So I became a PA in the legal department of Sky. And now looking back, that's around the time when my whole journey to becoming a coach and focusing on resilience actually started. But as with all these things in life, you don't realize it when you're in it. It's only when you look back. So around 2016, all of this started because I was thrown in at the deep end at Sky. Everything was different. I had to learn so much about myself, about other people, ways of working, had to show a lot of resilience. And I also had surgery to my feet in that time, which added this extra layer of stress. But I overcame it and I flourished. And then after that, I had some funny career moves. And looking back, I also learned some lessons from that. And that's what brought me into being a coach, focusing on resilience, because you do need resilience in life. And I think after COVID and everything, it's even more prominent. And you can learn to be this. And I've managed to do it. And now I want to teach other people to be resilient as well. So that's a little bit of my background. If you want to know anything else, you can go on my website, read the About Me section, go on LinkedIn, see my history. But you're not here for that. You are here to learn about the power of images. So let's start. I'll show you today some examples of how visualization can aid healing. So to turn turn illness into wellness. Examples of how celebrities have used visualization to achieve success. So it's not because they're a celebrity that I'm talking about it. It's because you know they are successful, and I'm just showing you what they did to get there. And then the two key ingredients you need for effective visualization, because without these two things, it'll just remain a pipe dream, a picture on your wall of the type of life you have, and you'll feel you'll never get there. You need two important key ingredients. So I'm going to start with visualization for healing, but it is actually the basis of everything we're going to talk about, but it's a good starting point. So the whole idea about visualization and imagining things is that the brain doesn't know the difference between you actually doing something, experiencing it in real life, or whether you experience it, imagine yourself experiencing it. It's the same. And that's a powerful concept to get your head around, excuse the pun. Whether you do it in real life, whether you think you do it, whether you imagine yourself doing it, your brain thinks it's happening. So there are some examples of this that they've done research on. First one I'm going to talk to you about is the famous piano study that was done at Harvard University. They compared the brains of two groups of people. One group, they're playing the piano, but the one group didn't really play piano. They imagined themselves playing piano, striking the keys with their mind, I would say. They did this, both groups did this, so one did it in real life and the other one imagined it, for 5 days, 2 hours a day. And at the end of the 5 days, the brain scans showed that both groups expanded the area of the brain that's linked to muscles of the fingers. So the brain responded the same way, whether they imagined it or whether they did it for real. The mobility in physiotherapy patients increased in a study. They did it for 4 to 6 weeks, where three groups of people were receiving physiotherapy. The one group, they did their physio. The second group, they also imagined themselves doing additional physio exercises for another hour every day. The third group watched other people doing physio in addition to doing their own physiotherapy exercises. And the group that looked at the other people doing it and the group that imagined themselves doing it increased their mobility much more than the ones that were only doing physiotherapy. It's astonishing. You don't even have to imagine, you just need to watch someone else do it. And you can improve, your muscles will respond as if you are doing it in real life. Then there was a study done with groups of women, or a group of women who was receiving breast cancer treatment, chemotherapy for breast cancer. Half of them was told to also imagine the immune cells being like piranha fish eating up the cancer cells. So they did this in addition to receiving chemo. And throughout the chemo process, they were doing blood tests and taking blood samples. And the people who imagined the immune system cells as the piranha fish eating up the cancer cells had a greater increase in immune system activity. So the immune system got stronger. And for them, that even increased after chemo had ended, which for the other ladies, when chemo ended, the job was done, basically. So this is just proof of how your body will respond to what you are imagining. And you'll see, actually, I thought there was something else there wasn't. But yeah, so that's the basis of visualization and using your brain doesn't know the difference. So now when we talk about visualization to achieve success, this is now more the vision board celebrity aspect of it. I want to share with you an example. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he is quoted as having said, "I had this fixed idea of growing a body like Reg Park's. The model was there in my mind. I only had to grow enough to fill it. The more I focused in on this image and worked and grew, the more I saw it was real and possible for me to be like him." Okay, I read this and I thought, very impressive, but who's Reg Park? He's the guy on the left. And Arnold Schwarzenegger definitely grew into that image of Reg Park. So everything he did, he imagined himself looking like this guy, and he's going to work towards that. And then he said when he transitioned into acting and politics, he did the same thing. His quote is, "It's the same process I use in bodybuilding. What you do is you create a vision of who you want to be and then live that picture as if it were already true." I've got goosebumps here. I just want to say I've been practicing these slides so many times, but maybe someone in the audience is really resonating with this. For me, it's amazing. You create the vision and you live it as if it were already true. And then Michael Phelps is the Olympic swimmer. His trainer, Bob Bowman, explains the method that he taught Michael. So he would say, for months before a race, Michael gets into a relaxed state. He mentally rehearses for 2 hours a day in the pool. He sees himself winning. He smells the air, tastes the water, hears the sounds, and sees the clock. And when I read this the first time, and even as I was typing over this quote, I'm thinking he mentally rehearses for 2 hours a day in the pool. That sounds wrong, but not when you add all your senses. And you're doing this, you're pretending with everything you have that Michael's pretending he is in the pool. So for his competitors who's not doing this, now that we know about what happens in the body like the piano study, Michael Phelps is getting 2 additional hours of muscles responding to swimming without tiring himself out. No wonder he's so successful. And now I want to show you something else. Jim Carrey. This is a video clip. I think he's the master of visualization. So this is him being interviewed on the Oprah show on the 17th of February, 1997. I'm going to play the clip, and typical Oprah show fashion, the audience really loud at the beginning. They shout and they cheer, but just bear with me, that will go away and you'll hear them speak without all the shouting. So just, okay, watch this one.
Okay. Obviously you knew somewhere inside yourself that you were destined to be famous, because I think it's really a marvelous thing, that visualization thing you did. Do you all read about this or hear this? That you used to go up on Mulholland Drive and park
every night
and visualize seeing yourself as
Yeah, I would visualize. Yeah, I would
This is when you were broke and poor.
You know, right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, you know, I like your work or whatever that is, and I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85.
Yeah.
And
I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things. And they're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there.
Okay, so you would get this from what, self-help books or whatever?
Yeah, self-help section.
Self-help section.
They've renamed it the Jim Carrey wing.
So didn't you write yourself a check? I heard that you did. Is that true?
I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff, but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber, maybe.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah. So you visualize yourself like... Visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can't just visualize and then, you know, go eat a sandwich.
Okay, so I actually think when I saw this video clip, I could probably just have sent you all this, and that would have explained everything I'm trying to achieve here. He covers everything that is necessary for visualization to work, and I think it's astonishing, actually. So, but I'm going to continue with my slides. What do all these celebrities then have in common? What's the common thread through all of them being able to be so successful? They acted as if what they imagined was already true. Like Arnold said, live the picture as if it were already true. And Jim Carrey, I do have these things, they're out there, I just don't have a hold of them yet. Like the Mulholland Drive, I actually had to Google this. Mulholland Drive is where all the rich, the world's most expensive mansions are, and they mostly belong to Hollywood superstars, okay? So he's driving down there, probably imagine that he's just gonna turn up one of these driveways one day, and while he's doing this, he actually has nothing in his life, but he's pretending that he's imagining it was already true. They also included the other senses. Now, the prime example, Michael Phelps with the swimming, where he's the air, the sound, the clock, the everything. Jim Carrey taking out that check, looking at it, touching it, seeing the number written on there, so they're including their senses as much as they can. And their visions included the feeling of it. Michael Phelps, the feeling the winds, and Jim said it made him feel better, the feelings. And of course, they took action. You can't just imagine swimming in the Olympic swimming pool and not showing up for the Olympics. You can't, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, just imagine you look like, what's the guy that he wanted to look like? Anyway, like that guy, and not pick up a weight. You've got to do your part as well. And the thing about the feeling of having it, that becomes easier when you include the senses and the acting. So the first two bullet points, they sort of feed into creating a feeling, because that's very important, and the action. And that's the two key ingredients. That's the two things you need the most. You've got to feel it, and you've got to take action. So if you have a vision board or action board, whatever you want to call it, up against a wall, you made it, and you think everyone's going on about this. Why isn't this happening for me? This could be one of the two things that you're missing out on. And it's got to be real action. You can't just pretend to take action or limited action. So this little guy didn't quite get the memo about taking action. It doesn't have any sound. Yeah, pretending the information is going into your head is not the same as really studying. You've got to take the real action. But to take action and to keep going can sometimes feel frustrating. And remember, everything we're trying to do, that the things that's on a vision board or action board, whatever you want to call it, those things are new to you. So it might need that you create a new habit. You might need to move away from a place where you lived. You need to change jobs. You've got to do something new. And that can feel scary and difficult to get into the habits. But it's all part of the process. And Dr. Albert Ellis identified something called the low frustration tolerance in 2001. Okay, that's a thing. It's got a name, but it's a fancy way of saying that you give up when things get tough. You find it difficult to push through that initial negative feeling, frustrations, the admin involved in something, the inconvenience. You don't want to keep going. Like irritability from feeling hungry when you're on a diet, right? The effort it takes to go to the gym. Saying no to going to the pub so that you can study. All of these things are, it's easy if you kind of give in to them, to fall back into those old habits if your frustration levels are low. That can happen. But if you have a vision of why you're doing this, you've got something to work for, and you add those feelings, you can get a high frustration tolerance. And of course, all these little irritability, irritating things, the annoyances, the getting into a new habit, they are very short-lived compared to the new life you might be creating for yourself. If you think when you're on the beach in your bikini at your ideal weight, you won't even remember the first time you were hungry when your breakfast wasn't big enough. But that was an inconvenience, but it's so short-lived, seen into the big picture. But if you don't have this vision, it's going to be more difficult to push through the frustrations. So how does visualization work? I've now told you it can work, like for these celebrity people. You can change your brain, or your brain can respond differently, frustration tolerance. But what is the mechanics behind this really? To understand that, we need to look at the negativity bias first. Now, I've mentioned this in the power of words, but I'm going to expand on it a little bit more. A negativity bias is your brain's preference to attend to, learn from, and use negative information far more than positive information. Okay, that's like a psychology book definition of it. What it means is you will look for the problems, you'll stay away from new things, you'll be living in fear in a sense. And you yes, problems and history, past events that were negative, keeps you from going forward. And all of this is an evolutionary thing. Caveman Bob over there, he really benefited from a negativity bias, because if he was hunting, he would assume, or not hunting, foraging, I would say, assume every single fruit he sees, every flower, every berry on a bush, he's assuming can kill him or make him ill. Until he knows otherwise, he's going to avoid anything new. He's also going to remember the stories he heard around the campfire of when Dave saw a bunch of baboons and he knows he needs to stay away from them. Where that was, when it was, what time of the day the lions hang out at the watering hole. Those kind of information, it's good. Negativity bias can save your life if you're a caveman. But if you're in the modern world, we want to move forward. We want to change jobs. We want to find a life partner. We want the new things so that we can get a new life, get the things we want. So for that, we need positivity bias strengthened. And how you do that is by adding the feelings to an image, a vision, which then tricks your brain into thinking you already have this thing. Because remember with like the examples we had, these people were living the life and pretending it's so real. So in their heads, they were already there. And that means the feeling of it allows you to step into the future now. Just that's a quotable, like one of those Instagram quotes. The feeling of it allows you to step into the future now. And that means that your brain will now need to start lining up the things that matches with this. So if you don't need to be afraid of a berry or a fruit or something, and you thinking everything is good for me, you're going to see all the fruit to go pick from the tree. So reality will then start showing up and matching what you are already living. And this is basically the basics behind it. You're changing your brain to see opportunities and hear conversations, see people, meet people, read articles, whatever it is, just to get you closer to that in real life, which you are already living in your head. So visualization in practice. This is now how you can do it in real life. You understand why it works. You know it does work. So how can we do it? I'm going to start talking about turning illness into wellness. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is from Dr. David Hamilton. And he's also one of the people that are interviewed in the Netflix documentary called Healed. So if you want to know anything more about this type of thing, using visualization for healing, check out that documentary. And Dr. David Hamilton suggests, or he's found that his patients do at least 10 minutes every day, but we've seen that you can go up to 2 hours, like Michael Phelps does and all those other studies. So 10 minutes at least, but it's got to be repeated. It can't just be one day and then you forget about it. It's got to be tomorrow, the day after, keep doing it, keep doing it. And a nice way of including your repetitive visualization is every time you take medication, you've got to do it at least once a day. So make that time that you're taking the tablets, turn it into a 10-minute visualizing this tablet doing the thing it's supposed to do even better. If it's got to lower your blood pressure, you do something to get that picture of a lowering blood pressure for 10 minutes and you keep it alive in your brain. You imagine it really intensely for at least 10 minutes. Other things you can do is to imagine a diseased cell becoming clean and healthy. So in my mind, I kind of have this picture, like maybe like a raisin, like something that's a cell that's unhealthy would look like a raisin. And you imagine it becoming perfectly shaped like a great soft skin, plump, juicy, you know, that looks to me like healthy. Or even an old cell, you can rejuvenate old cells and turning them into healthy, beautiful, healthy cells. Or you imagine your immune system destroying the diseased cells like they did in that chemotherapy study. They use piranha fish, but imagine the cell with muscles or a superhero cloak and a laser gun, whatever you need to make you imagine your immune system being really strong and capable of fighting off this disease. Another thing is you can focus on a change in color. So if you really hate the color purple and you love pink, you think of whatever illness you have as purple. And for 10 minutes at least, and while you take your medication, you imagine the color changing into the color you already have a natural affinity to. You love pink, for instance. You feel good when you think pink. It just kind of matches up perfectly. So this is ways, like Dr. David Hamilton says, like his patients are using imagery to help create wellness. But the key is this is only in addition to whatever your doctor is telling you. Don't stop taking your tablets and only do this. It just makes whatever medical intervention you are taking stronger. Yeah, oh, sorry. I'm getting so excited about all of this. The next one is the really good stuff now. It's the Actionable Vision Board. And for that, we've got a quick poll where my very assistant, my husband is on top of it. You started the poll already. I just want to know, have you ever made a vision board? Yes, no, or you don't even know what it is. And just start voting and then we can see. Okay. So it looks like, okay, we can, I think, John, we can end the poll, or I can end it. Oh, okay, sharing the results. Half of you, do you know what it is? And 4 of you says you don't know what it is. So then you are going to love the next slide. I'm going to explain to you how to make one. And it's called action or vision boards because most people call it a vision board, or we can call it a dream board. But this lady, the author of this book, Tara Swart, the source, you can see how I kind of refer to it a lot. She calls it an action board, and that's a perfect way of describing it because we need to remember to take action. It's not a far-off dream. It's something I've got to work towards. So action, vision board, call it what you want. I'm going to try and remember to say action board instead of vision board. So how you start is you relax. You have to be relaxed for this. And you take your time looking for images that matches the vision of what you want to achieve in 1 year. So we've put a year to it because it's not a time limit. It's just this time scale. Because if you just have this vague idea, because one day I want to have this, it's not going to inspire a lot of action. So make it for a year from any date you choose. And then you take those images, ideally from a magazine, but you can find it online as well. So I'm going to show you later my vision board, and I didn't use it for magazines because it was lockdown. I couldn't get to magazines. It was just too much hassle. So I used online images. But if you can do it with clipping it out, sticking it down with your glue stick, you hear the turning of the page, you've got to go to the store to buy the magazines. All of this are incorporating your senses and will make the whole experience of making this vision board more tactile, and it will kind of, you remember it more vividly when you look at your vision board the day that you made it in this way. But of course, it doesn't need to be that way. But relax about it and just take your time for things you want to achieve in a year. You've got to be images only, not words. And this is something, and there's an asterisk, which I'm going to come back to a bit later, but this is something I see on Pinterest and people who talk about making vision boards or action boards. They say, for instance, Hawaii. I want to travel to Hawaii. And even though the words are written with palm trees and coconuts, it's not an image. It's got to be an image because you need to get your brain to think you are seeing this in real life. It's as if you're already experiencing this through your eyes. So it has to be a picture, no words. And when it comes to using numbers, that's only insofar as you want the money you want to earn or the turnover of your business, like Jim Carrey with his check. That's where you use money or numbers. So if you want 3 dogs, don't cut out the number 3 and a picture of a dog. Have 3 pictures of dogs or have a picture of 3 dogs. You see what I mean? Numbers are only for the amount of money you want to earn or the turnover of your business. Then you place them on the board according to what's most important to you or the first thing you would like or the one that kind of kickstarts everything else. So the size and the location of the image will tell to your subconscious mind, this is really important. So use it in that way. And you can also then group it in themes. So if mine is on an A4 page, but if my page was too small, you get another page. So you separate the things. If you want a work-life balance, you don't want your work and your personal life to interfere with each other. You want to keep them separate. Then you keep them separate on your vision board as well. Like if they touch on the images in the vision board, it can kind of imply that you're okay with things almost overlapping. If you want a very busy social life, you want to be out every evening, you want to have busy and exciting, then you make your images on your vision board overlap and busy and vibrant, and you kind of get energy to the board itself to represent the vibrancy of the thing that you want. So it's not just the images on the board, it's the fact that the board is an image in itself. And then you let it sink in for a day or 2. Don't print out that PowerPoint slide with the images. Don't get the glue stick out just yet because you will maybe have to rearrange what is really important to me. And then there's something that I need to add in here that I've been thinking of and I'm wondering, should I say this? But this is like an intuitive gut feeling that I've got to add this. We've now been through lockdown. And if you leave this call, you might say, well, okay, I'm not going to make the vision board and I know I want to have a busy social life. I want to go to the pub again. I want everything I had before lockdown. And you might think that that's exactly what you want, but give it a few days because you might realize that, you know what, I actually like the idea that I go for walks every day. I never used to. The old me, the pre-lockdown me, would never have done this. And there is a temptation that when you start your action board, you kind of revert back to the default. But give it some time and decide what it is that you want. And there's also something about, say you are single living in London and all your friends are getting married. And you might think, well, the next thing for me in my life, the next step is I have to get married. But do you really want to? And even if you want to, do you think you want to do it this year? Because remember, these boards are not for life. You can, after a year, you change your mind. So even if you do want to conform to the idea or give your parents the grandchildren that they so desperately want, does it have to be this year? And do you even want it? Because we know how powerful this stuff is. And if you have any resistance to anything on those boards, even if you fill it with ideal job, lots of travel, and then there's 3 kids in the corner, and you actually don't want 3 kids, you're going to feel discontent when you look at the board. So really ask yourself and let it sink in and decide, what is it that I want to achieve in this year? And nothing needs to be off the table completely. It can always come back on the next action board. So that's my little, oh yeah, there goes the goosebumps. There maybe someone on this call needed to hear that. Okay. So where do you put your action board? You've got to put it where you look at it at least once a day. The best place is next to your bed because that's the last thing you see and it's the first thing you see. Very nice spot to have it. Or inside your wardrobe door. If you share a house with other people, or you don't want other people to necessarily know what's on your board, you open your closet every day, so put it in the inside of that. That's a good place. But you need to see it every single day. The time scale for this is You look at it intently with emotions, the emotions you will feel when you live that for 1 month. And then after that, you only need to see the vision board or action board around the house in that spot where you have it. And this, for this month, I suggest to get the feelings. Maybe, let's say, for instance, you put lots of beach holidays in the sunshine on your vision board. Then between now and over the next few days, when the sun does come out and you go outside and you feel the sun on your face, you kind of capture that feeling and you do what you can to remember it. And then when you go to your vision board, you can pull on that emotion very easily because it's still relatively recent. Anything of those, if you see a beautiful house or you walk through a beautiful house, capture the feeling, use it when you look at your vision board in that month, so that you can link the emotions to it very easily. But then you, of course, imagine the house is yours and it matches up with everything else on your vision board. So whatever you can to bring in those emotions for the first month. And there's another one. But what if I don't know exactly what I want? That could very easily happen. You say, I just don't want to have what I have now. I want my life to be different. I want something else. I don't know what that is. That's absolutely okay, as long as you can figure out how you want to feel. So if I don't want to feel, I don't know, bored at work, I want a job that's challenging and where I feel valued. Then that's the thing you put on your board. You find the image for the feeling you want. You don't need to specify where this new job is. You don't even need to know what it is you do. This is about the feeling you will have when you have that thing. And now we're going to go back to images, not words. So, for instance, if you want to be a courageous person, have a superhero image. Don't say, I want to be courageous. Or a butterfly coming out of a cocoon to represent transformation. You just know you want to evolve. That's all you need. The universe or the world, your brain, the positivity bias is going to supply the things that match up with this feeling. And anything that's metaphorical representation, so an image that represents an idea, taps into 4 areas of your brain: subconscious, emotional, logical, and conscious. It's very, very powerful because every time you look at it, you need to interpret your own image and then feel the feelings, and it's a lot going on. It's actually quite good if you don't know the specifics, because the feeling is the most important. How will I feel when I have this life is more important than where will I have the life? How long will it take me to get to this life? All of those things. So it's okay to not know. So an example, I would think, say you don't want to work for a boss anymore, you want to have your own company. But you don't know what kind of company, you've got no idea. You just know, I want to make my own money, be my own boss. So ask yourself, now, what does a successful company look like? What does success look like for me? How would I feel if I am a successful business owner? Well, on top of my head, I can just think, well, that would mean you need clients. You need happy clients who come back for more. You need people who will be willing to pay what you ask them to pay you. And you will be known as maybe as an expert or person that's good in whatever this business is. You've got a successful business. So that would mean find an image that represents happy clients to you. Find an image, maybe one of those where one person gives someone else a money bag, lots of money going, changing hands. That's all you need. How will I feel when I'm on the receiving end of this bag of money? The concept of wealth. Successful business person, well, that's anyone in a suit. And they kind of do this, right? That's me. Whether you're a woman or a man, that pose says successful business person. Dragon then, anything. It doesn't matter. And in all of this, I didn't say once what the person's business is. Factory, client services, producing something, office work, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's how do I feel when I am a successful business person? And you keep going for that feeling and get the images that match that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so excited about this stuff. I just need to breathe. So we're going to go into examples now. And the only person, apart from these celebrities that I talked about, with examples, I'm going to take it from my own life and share with you my vision board and how it looks in my own life. So here is my bedside table, and there's the source book at the bottom again, and my 2 A4 sheets, okay? So you can see the size of it, and I'm going to go into detail a little bit now. So hello for vulnerability. This is what I said about the biggest image, the most prominent one, the thing for me that kickstarts everything else is me to feel courageous, brave, confident. I need to feel this thing. And I also even have a little, you can see a little Wonder Woman Lego she's on my desk because this is in my bedroom, to remind me that I can be like Wonder Woman. I will become this kind of person, courageous, brave, strong. You can have any other image, or the same image could represent something else for you. It's open to interpretation, and it's for you. Then when we break it down to the smaller ones, this one on the top left and the one just below it, these two images are both on my website. If you go to my website now, you'll see them because they mean something to me. And I thought this is just a way to add another place where I tell people that this is the new me. So this one represents one-to-one coaching. It's not that I want to be sitting on a couch taking notes. For me, it's a representation of building a relationship with person and coaching. The one to the right is being confident enough to speak up. And for me, and I'm happy while I'm doing this. I don't feel like a wallflower. And it's something to do with intuition, speaking up when I feel I have to say something that's a bit out there. The next one, that's a kind of place I want to surround myself with. Countryside. I don't want to live in the city anymore. But I don't know where that is. That could be a different country. That could be Spain. That could be up the road. It could be Surrey. It could be anywhere. And there's water, because I do know I want some water. I don't know if it's a pond, a river, if it's filled with mosquitoes or not. There's also two animals at the back there. I don't know if you can see them. I don't know if they are cows or horses. It doesn't matter. It's the idea, the feeling I will get if this is in my back garden, or I can access this countryside living anytime I want. There's the idea of my husband and myself together, happy, carefree, freedom. This is what that represents to me. Speaking up, doing the thing I'm doing now, talking, training people. But you can see, even to me, that image represents a lot of things if I have to put words to it. But I know the feeling behind it, how I will feel when I do that. The big house, lots of bedrooms, lots of bathrooms, secluded countryside, okay? This one at the bottom, I don't know what's going on there. I don't care. The idea is someone in that room inspired this team of people to be happy. And that's where I'm going forward. This is probably the only literal one. It's the Pilates one. I need to keep Pilates in my life. It's got to stay in there, be part of this whole picture. And that's another thing. All of these things, to me, are intertwined. If you don't want to do your work stuff at home, then you have two different boards for that. If the house is the key to opening everything else up and how you feel when you're living in a certain place, that should be the biggest one. So this is just an example of how it could look. And you can also see mine is kind of spaced and there's no drama. Everything is orderly, nice and clean. That's also important to me. The whole package also sends a message. And I'm just going to give you another example when it comes to the speaking up thing. And this is how it really works in real life. And this is not just me trying to impress you or anything. This is just an example of what happens when you have a vision and how things can pan out to make it real. So my vision board, oh, actually, I didn't show you. Let me go back. Yeah, action board, sorry, 0808. I started this on the 8th of August last year. So this is my vision until the 8th of August this year, okay? Then later in August, I was invited by the HR person at the law firm I work to speak to my colleagues. And I'm like, say what? I just put this on the vision board. And now this opportunity is coming to me. So of course I said yes. I have to say yes. You can't say no when this is on your vision board and someone asks you to do exactly that thing. It was scary. And in the end, I did 7 talks, but it was to my colleagues. So it felt safer. It felt I can do this. It's not so intimidating. Next step, October, invited to do 2 talks for the Business Support Network for Strictly Recruitment. Now, all of a sudden, that audience is wider. And I don't know these people. I don't even know the Business Support Network guy. It was a huge deal to me, but I said yes, because it's the obvious step up from speaking to the people I know. Then in November, I was a guest on a Chartered Psychologist's Instagram Live. I'm not even big on Instagram. I actually didn't know Instagram had the live feature. And here I was talking about imposter syndrome with her. And now I'm doing this. But I would never have instigate or set up these webinars through Eventbrite, through LinkedIn, if I hadn't done the August, October, November stuff, if I didn't say yes to those things. To jump from action board to this, I needed to say yes to those opportunities that came in advance and have the confidence. You can see how all of these things are merging together. And I was nervous every single time. Frustration tolerance. I had to overcome the nerves, learn how to do this, get the tech to work, prepare the slides. There is some, inconveniences involved with that, but it's all worth it because in the end, it gets me closer to that vision. And that's another thing I just need to say here is, if you are offered options, a choice of something, say someone comes to you and say, I want to offer you this job. Say, for my example, assistant to the chief risk officer of an investment bank. Okay, good money. I can work from home every single day. It sounds fantastic. I'm going to say no to that job, even if I can do it, even if I want the money, because that job doesn't bring me closer to a career in wellness, mental health, coaching type of stuff. It doesn't have that vibe. My feelings are not aligned to that. If I'm looking for a house and it's got all the bedrooms, the secluded location, the garden, the bathrooms, the everything, but it's a listed building from the mid-1800s, it's not close enough to my vision. And there is something to be said about compromising. So sometimes you need to take a little step to get to the bigger one, but to decide whether the compromise is worth it or small enough, go back to your vision board and check in with how you feel. Is this in the end going to get me to where I want to be? And the compromise is not 100% what I want. So like me with the house thing, living in a dark listed building is not a small enough compromise to get all the other stuff. I'm going to say no to that. So your vision board is not only what I want to achieve in life, it's also a way of keeping you on track. And remember, this is for a year, so lots can happen in a year. Your life can change. Lots of opportunities can come. COVID can happen. And then all of a sudden you reassess. But your vision board or action board is going to keep you in line. So that is basically everything I know about visualization, action boards, vision boards. And I so hope that you understand how powerful this can be, and that it really does work and it can work. You just have to add those feelings and the emotions. And this next slide is on Saturday, so the 20th of February. I had already prepared these slides way in advance. So all of my references to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jim Carrey, my examples, the slides were done by Saturday. And on Saturday, I found this on my Instagram. This is Jim Carrey's Instagram account. And he says, to achieve something great, you must first figure out how to create a feeling of being great. Use your imagination, it's key. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Jim Carrey, you're the last slide in my presentation. And 24 years and 3 days after he was on the Oprah show, he is still going on about it. Feelings. Imagine how you will feel when you have it. You can't achieve it unless you create the feeling of being great. And your imagination is key. So you're in very good company if you do this visualization the right way with imagination and taking action. And then, so to sum it all up, it's just a question of asking yourself, is my life panning out the way I want it to? And if it's not, you imagine how you would like to feel, and then you take action. It is quite simple, and life will guide you along this way, and you've just trust your feelings and do something. So this is everything I know. And before we go, just have one more thing to show you. I just love all of this stuff, and I'm so excited, and I just hope you will go out and create these vision boards, and I'm excited to see how your life can change based on this few examples I've been giving you. But I have this free field supported email course, and it covers power of words and power of images again. It's just 7 emails over 14 days. I don't get anything out of it. It's not a marketing thing. It's just 100% small bits of resilience teaching that hits your inbox. And you can sign up for it on my website right at the bottom of the homepage. But I'll also be putting a link to this in the follow-up email I'm sending you. And for that, it's going to come from this email address, Natasja King Coaching @gmail.com, but check your spam folder because it's through MailChimp. and it sometimes goes into spam. If you sign up to this email course, within seconds, you're supposed to get an email from me to say welcome. If you don't, check your spam. And by the end of today, if you haven't received an email from me with the recording and the links that I've used, that I refer to, check your spam. So that really now is the last thing I have to say to you. And please keep in touch with me. If you make your vision board, if you make an action board, if you use it to change wellness or illness into wellness, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and to hear the examples of how action boards have changed your life, or you intend it to change your life.